Hello, welcome. Come right in. Make yourself comfortable. As usual, we've got the lighting perhaps not in the perfect position. Good morning to you. Good morning, good morning. Hey, it's Marshall Gregory Thomas here, fiddling with my camera. And we're going to go unplugged here at the 28th Amendment Tiny Concert Series. So let's see, we've got two songs for you here that I haven't played in about a year, so this should be fun. Why do I always do live broadcasts on material that I haven't done in 6 months or 2 years? Well, it makes it more interesting that way, I guess. Okay, good enough, good enough. So here we are once again. I'm your host, Marshall Gregory Thomas, at the 28th Amendment Tiny Concert Series. We're here in the music bunker with our omnipresent friend. And what we save on in decor, we pass the savings directly on to you, the consumer, which is always a good thing. Now we're going to try and play guitar wearing long sleeves that kind of kill the strings there, so this should be interesting. Let's see, we got let's do a reading first, shall we please? Yeah. We're going to do a reading from excerpt from Black Elk Speaks. And wow, well, this camera just makes the forehead go on forever. Maybe it is. Okay. Maybe you never really sure what you look like to the world sometimes. Surprise! Oh my goodness. Lord, give me more coffee. I apologize for the, like I said, the decor, the background. I guess we'll go to a green screen here in the very near future. So we're going to do a quick thank you for your patience and as I'm babbling and trying to wake up by talking to myself. Black Elk Speaks, circa 1871. And while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell, and I understood more than I saw, for I was seeing in a sacred manner the shapes of all things in the Spirit, and the shape of all shapes as they must live together like one being. Sometimes dreams are wiser than waking. Crazy Horse dreamed and went into the world where there's nothing but the spirit of all things. That is the real world that is behind this one, and everything we see here is something like a shadow from that world. Crazy Horse was dead. He was brave and good and wise. He never wanted anything but to save his people, and he fought the Wasuchis only when they came to kill us in our own country. He was only 30 years old. They could not kill him in battle. They had to lie to him and kill him in that way. I cried all night, and so did my father. I did not see anything in New York in 1886 to help my people. I could see that the Wasuchus did not care for each other the way our people did before the nation's hoop was broken. We would take everything from each other. They would take everything from each other if they could. And so there were some who had more of everything than they could use, while crowds of people had nothing at all and maybe were starving. This could not be better than the old ways of my people. You have noticed that the truth comes into this world with two faces. One is sad with suffering, and the other laughs. But It is the same face, laughing or weeping. When people are already in despair, maybe the laughing face is better for them. And when they feel too good and are too sure of being safe, maybe the weeping face is better for them to see. But now that I can see it all as from a lonely hilltop, I know it was the story of a mighty vision given to a man too weak to use it, of a holy tree that should have flourished in a people's heart with flowers and singing birds, and now is withered, and of a people's dream that died in the bloody snow. Those are the words of Black Elk, excerpts from Black Elk Speaks. And I'm trying to remember the name of this song. I'm about to attempt to sing for you. Oh gosh, love it when that happens. Okay, well, this is going well. Just bear with me just a second. See if I can find the lyrics to my first song. Oh, here we go. Okay, I couldn't remember what it was called. Well, it's been a couple of years since I wrote this. So, okay, this is called Far Behind, copyright 2015. So, yeah, I don't perform this material very often, so I do apologize if it's a little rusty, if I make mistakes, that kind of thing. But, you know, what's a live broadcast for anyway, right? So here we have a little tape, and I'm just going to tape up the lyrics right here. And as I play, I'll read the lyrics. All right. Hey, thanks for being here. And hope you enjoy this song. Far Behind Us. Okay, I always been kind of a city kid. Well, at least the suburbs. I spent a lot of my formative years, you know, in a small suburb of about 100 houses, kind of set off out 6 miles down the road, more or less. That was part of a town of 30,000 people. And then later, you know, when I was 13, I moved to a mega city, a city of, you know, like 3 or 5 million people, depending on, you know, city or metro. And, you know, it was one of the 10 largest cities in the country. And so when I moved to a small town, it was really a shock. I'm talking a small town. This is like 1,000 souls, if you count the small cats and dogs. Small cats, the stray cats. Still trying to talk this morning. I apologize. So anyway, you know, I mean, living in if you've gone from living in one of the 10 largest cities in the country to living in, you know, a town of about 1,000 people, you know, there's one blinking yellow light in the town. That's how small it is. There's no street lights. And so I was shocked at, well, you know, it's kind of like the Last Picture Show. This writer and this director just made this incredible magnum opus, just a masterwork, you know, the Last Picture Show, the movie. And that pretty much sums it up. So all you have to do is Google Last Picture Show. You'll know where I was at. So anyway, not too far away. Apparently, you know, people gossip about each other a lot. And a lot of times they just make this stuff up. It's kind of like theater, or, you know, some people are vicious gossips, but everybody repeats the same stuff back and forth to each other. Somebody can just make something up about you, which is the case most of the time, and then everybody just repeats it back and forth. Well, I thought it was malicious, but essentially it's a way of moderating other people's behavior. If somebody gets too big for their britches, they start driving around a fancy car, or people, oh, you think you're better than us, kind of, well, or they're having affairs, or people just push back. It's kind of a collective, get back in your place kind of thing. And it's the gossip it's also a form of entertainment. So there's a small group of women who will meet, at the central locating place. It used to be my grandmother's beauty shop. They would meet early in the morning, and they would get the gossip. It's like the tribal drums start beating. They would get the main gossip, the themes of the main gossip for the day, and this would echo out over, travel very rapidly. People just repeat this. It starts at the very top of the matriarchal hierarchy. The alpha females get together in the morning. Well, since the beauty shop was no longer there, they met at the Dairy Queen. And some of you know what I'm talking about. Love the onion rings, man. Got to do the onion rings. So anyway, this gossip would echo out. It was something I was completely unfamiliar with in life at all. The gossip mill and the art of gossip. Oh, A Greater Tuna Christmas. Those plays where these two guys act out these little character studies. Yeah, he was actually from that town. So, some of the characters they made are just incredibly vicious, like a vicious male gossip is one of the characters. But it's not. You have to understand, village life was how people primarily lived. So this art form, or this practice of gossip actually, probably goes back many thousands of years, and it's a way of moderating human behavior as well as relieving the absolute crushing boredom of life in this small village town. So anyway. And so if you live there very long, you start to feel trapped. And so you find you start something new with someone, and you're both being gossiped about, and you want to make your escape. Love to gods in this town, they won't stop until you're in the ground. Ships passing in the night, it's our last chance to get it right. I don't need to know your name, let's leave this foolish game. I've always known your face, let's leave them in their place. This day, precious gift, I'll take the wheel you share, any other beer, shift down to forgive. Your face is a soul survivor, instinct, a holy drive. We'll leave this town today, freedom, only way. The past far behind, why do you let it blind? The past far behind, why do you let it blind? Move fast, moon is rising, more light, just survive. Two friends against the world, love's band isn't heard. Wow. Okay, so that was about life in a small town and how the gossip can just kind of make you feel like you really need to get out of Dodge. Two friends against the world. So, you get together with homegirl and they start gossiping about the both of you. And the next thing you know, you wait till midnight. You get into your little Great American Dream Machine, crack a couple of beers, and you start heading west. Let me out of here! Anyone who's ever lived in a small town probably knows exactly what I was talking about. I apologize for the, needs a little practice. Well, you know, a lot of the great artists in the East, they would be working on some masterwork of painting or sculpture or something. And they would purposefully, or calligraphy, and they would purposefully make some little error, some small little error on purpose. And this was, you know, to embody the fact that, you know, all human creations are imperfect, and if they actually did something perfect, it might it loses some of its humanity. I don't think that's exactly what they were thinking, but since I've forgotten what it is exactly that they were thinking, I'll ad-lib something. Well, you know, we've had some. We've been pretty lucky with the political leadership we get. Certainly, you know, at crisis times in history, you look back. You know, we had George Washington. You know, we had some really visionary, capable men, and some of them were geniuses of their age, practically, like Abraham Lincoln. Of course, when we had Abe Lincoln, we didn't even appreciate him at all. They just made fun of his appearance and called him a tyrant and an evil person and a dullard. And essentially, they were trying to snipe at this guy and drive him out of office or into his grave, practically. And you know, after they murder him, and they're like, oh, you know, they start to realize exactly what they had. You know, it's only, you know, and isn't that the way in life, really? You know, I mean, you know. You break up with somebody, and later on you're thinking, gee, you know, that really wasn't that bad. Wasn't perfect, but so anyway, yeah. So we get differential, you know, leadership, and so we have these Abe Lincolns, we have, you know, these men of incredible perseverance like George Washington, but we also have these men of genius like Abraham Lincoln, and but I think that, you know, the age of the way you create a civilization is these men who are, you know, they're not full of self-doubt, okay, and these aren't, you know, they're men of contradictions, certainly. I mean, you know, they're holding contrary ideas and aspirations in their minds almost simultaneously, like Teddy Roosevelt. You know, he's a great progressive and he's a reformer, but he's going out and he's, you know, he he takes advantage of a coup in Colombia, and he creates a whole new country called Panama, just because he wants to build the Panama Canal, and he does it. I mean, the sheer audacity of peeling off, creating a country, and then doing this nearly impossible engineering feat, and essentially solidifying the military security of the United States for the next 100 years through the sheer audacity. I mean, this guy's. I mean, and that was just one thing he did. So you have these men like Teddy Roosevelt, who even though he was born in like Brooklyn, there's actually a photograph of the funeral corsage procession of Abraham Lincoln going by in Brooklyn, and there's a photograph of this, and you look, and there's like these brownstones, and on the left, up about in the second or third story, there's a small person, looking out the window. It's Teddy Roosevelt when he was a little kid. Whoa, it's like a Twilight Zone photograph. So this guy, he believes, even though he's a sickly kid and he can't even hardly go outside and play with the other kids half the time, and so he's miserable. He goes into the life of the mind, but then he, out of the ethos of the American West and out of the warrior spirit, I mean, he becomes a really, he's a little scrawny kid. He creates his own body, and he becomes this very skilled pugilist. He can fight. I mean, he's very short, but he's like a fire plug dude. And if you insult the guy or you won't apologize, you're going to get an ass whooping. Even though he's like the skinny nerd, he created himself out of basically what you would say the fire of his own will. He goes out west, and he's born and raised in Brooklyn. He's embodied the ethos of the American West, even though it's the 1890s. He goes out there and he's got his, his artillery, I guess it was like a Sharps rifle, and he's got his, his pack horse, and he just goes out into the wilderness in Montana, and he just lives off the land. He's just taking game animals, and he's living like a mountain man. He becomes a mountain man, and this is the man who's, bestrides the world like a colossus. So, this is what creates civilizations. These are the kind of men that create empires. And you can say, oh, this is a terrible thing that we peeled off, Panama from Venezuela and installed our own little government and then put through, this engineering project, took it away from the French and perfected it, well, there, that kind of thinking, if that kind of thinking prevailed, and I'm not, we're not talking about committing genocide or something. We're talking about being visionary and following through with a vision. If that kind of thinking, revisionist thinking, had occupied this country from the very beginning, the United States would be a country that occupies a very small, thin strip along the eastern seaboard of the United States, and it would be surrounded by hostile enemies. So if this country hadn't had men like this, that were our leaders, that had this kind of, they kept these primary, it's like their base level programming, embodied these really intense values of the American West and the man of honor, the pugilist, who will not, you don't go around beating people up for the fun of it, but I mean, if you think you're going to step on, Teddy Roosevelt's shoes and spit in his eye, you got to think you're going to get punched in the nose, So, I mean, these are people who stood up for themselves and who embodied the heroic, the hero's journey, And, here we have Reagan. He's kind of a celluloid hero, but he really came from nowhere. And he was really, he was someone who went around the country and toured the country at a certain point in his life. And so he put his fingers on the pulse of the nation by going from state to state and city to city for years, you know, and speaking to people and talking to people. And this is something that doesn't happen a lot with just people in everyday life, much less our leaders. So this gave him a lot of insight. And you know, I wasn't always a big fan. And here's a guy, he gets into office and they say, oh, he's a nuclear cowboy, he's going to start a war, he's going to destroy the world, he's going to become a dictator, a tyrant, you know, he's stupid and yada yada. He was the first American president that almost got rid of nuclear weapons forever. And it basically, it was a lot of his drive that instead of containment, it was actively contesting the evil empire that, you know, I mean, it was multifactorial, but he did have a hand in the collapse of the evil empire. So, you know, we have somebody like Bernie Sanders, God love him, but Bernie Sanders on his honeymoon goes and honeymoons in Moscow. Well, that's like going to Auschwitz and having a picnic while in the middle of World War II, practically. I mean, it's not that bad, but the Gulag system was still, you know, in existence. It's still, you know, those people were captives. They still couldn't freely travel. They're behind an iron curtain. And Bernie Sanders, you know, and they take their intellectuals like a Bernie Sanders. If he was a dissident, they would have, you know, exiled him to some Siberian hellhole or imprisoned him in a mental hospital and tried to destroy him with these experimental medications. So Bernie Sanders and his wife go over there, and God bless them, they're idealistic and they want to believe in a better world. But you know, sometimes it's better to have people who aren't quite so idealistic and some people who are a little more hard-headed and practical. And that's what this man embodied. And you know, when I was young, I didn't think too much of the guy, but having traveled around the world some and paid a little closer attention, realized that, you know, I always wanted to create a utopia, kind of like a lot of, you know, people of goodwill these days. But the world, you know, there are no utopias. There are no isms. These political philosophies are failures, and it's the individual. Society and the world will be saved at the level of the individual. If you want a utopia, the only place to go is the level of the individual. And so, you know, just like Teddy Roosevelt, this man kind of embodied that. And that's actually the right way to view it, strangely enough. Even though he's running a 3x5 note card presidency, he surrounded himself with these incredibly, you know, the dream team to help him manage this thing. And he, on a 3x5 note card, he's, you know, this is not perfect. But he keeps these primary ideas, you know, 3 or 4 big ideas in his mind all the time, and he just drives towards those goals. It's kind of like watching a football game where all they do is hand off the football every play to the fullback. You know, it's like 3.5 yards in a cloud of dust. You know, but he actually got places where, you know, other more, you know, incredibly intellectually accomplished individuals who are completely idealistic or very idealistic in comparison really didn't get much of anywhere. It's a strange paradox, but I think it holds true. So anyway, this is a song about Reagan. I hope you like it. Reagan, he's a hero. I apologize, I haven't played this in a while. We're going to try again. It's a morning in America. It's a morning in America. It's a morning in America. God save his life so he might go on to save us. God saved his life so he might go on to save us. God saved his life so he might go on to save us. Only God and Ron can tell. We need the Reagan doctrine. We want the Reagan doctrine. Put God in the classroom. Put God in the classroom. Reagan Revolution. Reagan Revolution. He's a great communicator. He's a great communicator. He's a great communicator. Well, for bum, go back to work. Only Ron can save us. Well, for bum, go back to work. Only God can save us. Go back to work. Only Ron can save us. Only Ron and God can help. Taxes are the problem. Government is the problem. Taxes are the problem. Government is the problem. Reagan Revolution. Reagan Revolution. One more Reagan Revolution. One more Reagan Revolution. One more Reagan Revolution. God spared his life so he might go on to save us. God spared his life so he might go on to save us. God spared his life so he might go on to save us. Only God and Ron can. Reagan, he's a hero. Reagan, he's our hero. Reagan, we need him right now. Reagan, we need him right now. Well, boy, I kind of massacred that one. Well, the Zen Taoist painter isn't supposed to like cross everything out. He's supposed to make one tiny little error. Okay. Well, sometimes that happens. Okay. All right. Well, we've had a tiny little concert such as it was, and I promise before we come back and do some of these older songs that we'll give them a run through once or twice prior. But it always makes for an exciting morning. So there is that. Well, once again, I'm Marshall Gregory Thomas here at the 28th Amendment, inside the music bunker with our tiny concert series. We had a little excerpt from Black Elk Speaks, and we had our two songs, Far Behind Us, and that one was called Morning in America, about Reagan, yeah. Far Behind Us and Morning in America. And I think you actually can find those online. Hopefully better versions. Like I said, I don't go back and revisit a lot of this stuff. I just try and keep plowing ahead. The illusion of progress. And, well, thanks very much. I can't thank you enough for being here. It's been a real pleasure having you. And hope you come back tomorrow. We'll do a little more on our 28th Amendment and how we're going to bring back the middle class. You know, the middle class life was really the core, the bones and the brawn of democracy. And when the middle class was ascendant in this country, when the middle class was doing fine, democracy was doing fine. And it was pretty much unshakable. It was like the ballast in a ship, you know. Even in a storm, when you had a really strong middle class. It was something that you didn't see in other cultures and other countries, even in Western civilization. If you went back to Europe, it was always the aristocracy, and then it was like everybody, all the little proles down here. You had a merchant class, but you really didn't have an enormous, ginormous, middle class in the middle 50%. So this was our creation. This was our genius, and it was the real strength of this country. And we've seen it kind of been fading out here for the past 30 years. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a plan. We're going to make a plan, to bring back the middle class, and so we're gonna explore that more tomorrow, I hope. And until then, thanks for being here, and hope you have a great day, and know that we love you.